And
Hello.
now we're moving on to our spotlight game. It is a big, big deal game this week. It is a mascot. It is a rival. It is none other than Sonic the Hedgehog himself in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Genesis. Came out in Japan, came out in both territories on November 21st, 1992. And it was released on Sonic Tuesday, dubbed by their $10 million marketing campaign, which was crazy big at the time for a video game. So, Harrison, what are your memories with Sonic 2?
I remember it mostly as just being like Z Z multiplayer game. You know,
Yeah.
very similar overall to the first game. But if you were like me and you were young and you had siblings and and you were playing games with your siblings at the time, um, just the memories of being younger and having people in your house that you're playing games with more, because it is a very similar game to the first one, outside of having the multiplayer and having the spin dash, which is the other huge mechanic that's introduced in this game.
Oh, I didn't even realize
Lots of
that. That's a good point to bring up. I didn't know the spin dash started here.
Yeah, spin dash,
I haven't played the
for the
first
super.
Sonic a lot, I don't think.
Yes, the spin dash made it a lot easier so that you could speed up right away. So it made the mechanics feel a lot smoother, and it kind of kept the same feel of, yeah, it's fast paced. There's multiple ways of finishing a level. Um, yeah, and it was just huge. I mean, yes, they had a huge marketing campaign, but it sold over 600 million copies, and it made 450 million in that first year, which is almost $1 billion, uh, in today's money. So, in my opinion, and I'm not, you know what, whatever. I'm not a Sonic fan. This is the
To
most important Sonic game. I'll just
I
say it.
agree, because to me, the Sega Genesis didn't exist until this game. I've always heard of people who grew up with the Sega Genesis and they had Altered Beast as the original pack-in launch title. I don't think I even knew about Sega Genesis until, and yeah, it's Genesis in our territory. So sorry for people who have it as what is it, Master System other places? Mega Drive. Master System's the other one. Anyway, um this is what made Sega a thing in my life, is this being the pack-in game for the Sega Genesis. I remember it always confused me a little bit that the pack-in game was Sonic 2, being a Nintendo household. I was always like, what about the first one? Why not that? So I was always like, because in my mind, this was the beginning of the system. I didn't know the system had been out for a while. Um, and they also had another thing that added to the confusion, is they had Sonic 1 and 2 on the Master System, the previous, the competitor with the NES. And I don't know, to me that would be like if the Super Nintendo also had Mario Brothers and Mario Brothers 2, but not the All-Stars versions, but just like released as individual games. So that was confusing for me at the time. There was also a Sega CD version planned, which is like exactly what was wrong with Sega at the time. Like, as a consumer, you're like, how are you supposed to know which version of this game to get? I mean, it obviously didn't hurt them in sales, but I remember that was something that kept me as a Nintendo household, is I was always confused by all the options you had with Sega. You would see this article in GamePro that this game is on the Master System, it's on Game Gear, it's on Genesis, but maybe you should wait because it's also coming to the Sega CD in a few months. So I don't know. That was something about Sega that always confused me as a kid. It was too much information to absorb. And
Oh, and
yeah,
and and thank God that that Nintendo never releases confusing titles or ports or anything like that. Thank God Nintendo never does that.
I don't
I'm
know.
sorry.
I was
Sorry.
just always able to keep track of Nintendo a little easier. I don't know why. It's just what it was, man. It's just what it was. I was always a little more confused by Sega. I did end up getting a Genesis eventually. I think I ended up getting it towards the end of the generation, and then I didn't get a Saturn or a Sega CD even. I went right from the Genesis to the Dreamcast, and those were the only two Sega systems I ever owned were Genesis and Dreamcast, and I owned them way after people were done playing with them. So that's my experience. But every now and then I do a nostalgia dive into the first three Sonic games because they just they have like a different kind of nostalgia for me. Like I said before, my neighbor's house was the Sega house, so I remember playing them over there. And I think everyone has that nostalgic. There's like a specific kind of nostalgia for things they grew up with but never owned themselves. You know what I mean? Um, it's like different than the nostalgia of the things that you owned.
Yeah, I hear I had both. I definitely was a Mario and Sonic household. Uh, it's crazy to think about. Like I spent most of my time when I was younger playing platformers where I grew up and my interest is like non-existent almost.
Did
Uh,
you back in the
I
day fall into the like the thing where everyone was kind of trying to figure out how to get the hidden palace zone, which was like a scrapped level for the game?
um I don't remember. I don't remember which secret, which Easter eggs
I remember
were
that
in
was
this
one of
game.
those pre-internet word of mouth like rumors that turned out to be true. But like it was this pre-internet word of mouth thing because you could somehow glitch the game out and see like a very buggy version of the level, and it was on the box art for the game. So you would see the box art, and if you knew the game very well, you'd be like, this level's not in the game. So so yeah, I remember that was like a pre-internet rumor that actually turned out to be true. This was a level that was made for the game and cut. And it's been restored actually in the iOS version and I think a couple of other versions. So that's really cool as they reinserted it. But that was just another thing I remember about the game is talking about like, oh, my friend knows how to get the hidden palace zone, but it's not glitched. Like it's perfect and it
Mhm,
runs and you can play it.
mhm.
So yeah.
I remember a lot of conversations similar to that. Yes, but yeah. Speaking about levels, I mean, I love the casino zone in this game, and I was wondering if they would still do that in like a game meant for children now. Because like I do see like games like Vampire Survivors or something that are kind of like casino inspired, but I don't know if they would actually put a casino level into like a Sonic game now.
Well, that's a good
I'm
point. That yeah, I don't know if they would. And it's you said the word theme, and it made me think like there's three major themes I feel like to the levels in this game. There's the grassy areas of like Emerald Hill Zone. There's the casino theme, and then there's like an Egyptian type theme, like an ancient ruins type theme. But overall, I had a note where I feel like the zones didn't do a good enough job of telling a story like I feel like they do in like a Mario game. I feel like I understood the world of Super Mario World more than I understood the world of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And it just I don't know. It felt more like a collection of levels than an overall like complete idea to me.
That's interesting. I don't know if I agree. I mean, we're talking about feelings, so I can't
Yeah.
disagree with your feelings, but I don't know if I really agree because like I love like Mario Brothers 3 is like one of my favorite games, but I always felt like, why are we going into a desert all of a sudden? Or like, why are we like switching biomes and everything? Like, it all seemed very random, despite knowing the end goal of, okay, like, you got to get the princess. I don't know
Yeah, but
why we're
I guess what I'm
collecting.
trying to say is like even the
Yeah,
when I say the storytelling is, I think now that I'm thinking about it, a big part of it is even going back to the original Super Mario Brothers. Um, you play a few worlds and then there's a castle, a Bowser's castle at the end, and it's the same way in Mario Brothers 3. It's the same way in Super Mario World. You do a few worlds and then you have a castle or a dungeon. And something, I think there's something about that that bookmarks it in my mind, that's like, okay, here's the story being told. I'm going through this area and I get to that castle and then the princess is in another castle. And I don't know, maybe
sure.
that's the element I feel like is missing in Sonic the Hedgehog, is it feels like it just keeps going without set chapter markers like that. I don't know. Um but I'm glad to hear it didn't happen for you, so that kind of helps me understand like that not everybody sees it the way I do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is the main reason why we should have these like conversations for the spotlight games is that um I think I agree with you with Sonic. I think I more disagree with you that m- with Mario, or like, we've talked a lot about the timeline or the non-existent timeline of like Zelda games. uh,
Hmm.
just I'm not so sure on that end. I'm not so sure when I compare the two. But yeah, I wasn't thinking so much playing through this game about how the zones and the levels fit together. I love that. Um, this game I never knew until we started doing research. It had some pretty big hiccups between, because it was made by Sega Technical Institute in America or in California, but they were still working on it in Sega in Japan as well. And there was quite a few conflicts, even so much that the game was not fully playable start to finish until 2 days before production had ended. Um,
Well,
so there is lots of changes. Apparently, there was going to be even more zones and levels. Like, they had plans of making it a much bigger game than it already was, which is pretty crazy to think about. And
it was the number one selling
there's
game of that year, so they, with what little they had, they made it work.
it still came out to be a pretty like massive game, and to think that
Yeah.
it could have been even bigger. And then, like, there's conflicting stories about the head of STI in America. Um, the head of that company, he left sometime around the production. Some say it was after it was finished. Some say it was before it was finished. But doing my research, I can't figure out what actually happened. But there was a lot of feuds between the American and Japanese Sega companies, to where like this game might have not come out on time, but it did come out on time. Had a huge marketing campaign, and it sold 1 million copies in the UK in 1 week. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, I'm not sure what the second best game was that year, but it did
Yeah.
amazing, especially for the time. I forget where I ranked this. I'm gonna look at our doc real quick. I ranked it pretty high, I think.
I ranked
I
it pretty high
put
as
it
well. Yeah.
I put it at number 12.
Okay.
So I'm putting it right below Majora's Mask. And I heard that our podcast got a little jump because of Majora's Mask. So maybe we should bring that up more.
We should just be a Zelda
What
podcast now.
why Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is not as good as Majora's
Yeah, that's gonna be the
Mask.
name of this episode.
Yeah.
Just put Majora's Mask in every episode title.
Puyo Puyo 2 is nothing like Majora's Mask.
Um,
So yeah, it's ranked pretty high. It's ranked right above Toe Jam and Earl, and right below like a lot of Zelda Mario games.
so I ranked it. This is gonna sound low, but trust me, it's a high ranking in my heart. I ranked it at number 16, so still top 20. But I'm looking, and every game above this game on my list are games that have like these are all games I have a strong emotional connection to. So I think it just comes down to being a Nintendo household, and all of these games are every game above it. I think is a first party Nintendo game. So
Yes.
um, so yeah, it's the highest ranking non first party Nintendo game on my list. Um, and oh no, not Toe Jam and Earl. But anyway, so I had Toe Jam and Earl at number 3 because that is a game that I played a lot as a kid. But anyway, yeah, it's number 16 that puts it right below Jet Force Gemini and right above Shinobi Ninja 3.